Good evening, good evening. This is your servant and Senator Carla Joseph, welcoming you to another segment of my radio talk show On Point, heard every other Tuesday from 6 to 6:30 p.m. here on the People Station WSTA 1340 AM. Thank you for joining me this evening and every evening as I bring you up to date on my work, share information on matters of concern, and highlight the work of people and organizations in our community. Tonight, we celebrate Black History Month with our special guest, Mr. Sinclair Wilkinson, educator, history maker, and champion for our children. Welcome, Mr. Wilkinson.
Thank you very much, Senator Joseph, for welcoming me. And every time I see you, I get a special high because I remember when you were in my 9th grade class at the University High School. We started out with Jimmy O'Brien, and you were part of that campaign.
Oh, yes. I would always say that you really got me involved in politics and campaigning for Jimmy O'Brien, the Honorable James O'Brien Jr., his re-election campaign.
And that was your first time, I believe. Yeah.
It was my first time, definitely. And you just have a way of shaping and nurturing young people and seeing potential. You look for those diamonds in the rough and you shine them out.
And you are surely one, to be honest with you. Every time I see you, I tap myself on my shoulder and I say, I had something to do with it. That Senator there.
That is so true. And I remember it just as if it was yesterday. But before we begin our discussion with you, Mr. Wilkinson, we just want some quick updates on what's happening legislatively and some highlights for the month of February. Yesterday, we had in the Legislature Committee of the Whole, and we considered 4 bills, and 3 of the 4 bills are rezoning. One is a minor coastal zone permit, and we also heard from the representatives of the Office of the Lieutenant Governor regarding the street signage program. So I'm going to go quickly through these measures that we discussed. Remember, in the Committee of the Whole, we don't take any vote. We just receive testimony and ask questions. So we talked about Bill number 350212, and that is a minor coastal zone permit. Ms. Lisa Bertrand, she is requesting a minor coastal zone permit to install, continue use and occupancy of submerged lands and install a 5-foot wide by 30-foot long floating dock at Honeymoon Beach in Water Island. And of course, this is an economic boom. They're not going to be doing any dredging, and this is just a floating temporary dock, and it's going to have negligible adverse effects on the environment there. And then we also considered Bill number 35-0233, and this is for estate content, 41C estate content, and it's really being sponsored by the Discount Car Rental. They have their inventory of cars that they use this area to park their cars. So that's one. So they needed a rezoning. The area is actually zoned currently, I think it's R3, and they need a zoning. So DPNR suggested and recommended that they have a zoning variance for this portion of the property. And they also got some individuals who are in support of it, the neighbors there. There's already a car rental agency in that area that also park their cars there. But Discount Rental, they're just using it as a parking lot to store their excess cars from their other location. Then we had Bill number 35-0234. This is a rezoning from light industry designation to have also a designation of commercial for the area that is located in Niski Center. So this designation is so that they can also, and it's being the business owners are Hamed Incorporated. These are the gentlemen who owns Moe's and etc. So they really want to have this zoning designation so that they could be able to actually build convenient shopping, well, actually another grocery store, and also house some storage and build a hotel. And finally, we have AR Legacy LLC, and they are asking, this is in Dunu area, and they are asking that this area, which I believe consists of 11.142 acres, which is located in Dunu. If you're familiar with Dunu area, we're talking about the parcel that is behind of Home Depot and actually to the west of my brother's workshop. And so they have all of that acres. So what they plan to do is have a mixed-use development there, which would include commercial space as well as residential. What I like about it is all of these businesses who are requesting these rezoning and this minor CZM permit are local business owners who are reinvesting what they have earned in our community and want to expand their business, which is an economic boom. So we're going to be getting more economic opportunities for construction as well as retail, customer service, and hospitality service with these rezoning and minor CZM permits. So that's a good thing for us. You know, anything that we're doing to bring in money into the coffers of the Virgin Islands is a good thing, because remember, taxpayers' money is what pays to fix our roads, pays our salaries, also pays for health care, and it pays for a whole plethora of services. So I always say bringing in money, and for us to be able to collect those money, whether it's by taxes or fees, is very good, because it helps keep our economy growing and robust, and we are able to provide critical services to our people. Now, I also wanted to just talk about briefly the Lieutenant Governor street signage program. This has been happening from the turn of this century, and they have made some tremendous progress. They got a $5.3 million from CDBG DR funds to do the street signage, and this is critical because Google Maps, every electronic GIS uses it. When you go to the States and now you need to find this street and that street, it's all labeled. So we really want to have that in place, and they are making really great strides to do that. So hopefully we'll now be able to have street signs that says the name of the street, so we don't have to say, well, I live here up on the mango tree and all of that, which is critical, because I remember when I worked in the housing authority, I would have individuals who were my coaches, or I would have federal site visits. They were always getting lost because they would say, we don't know how to find this place because there's street signage. I said, yeah, that we don't have good street signages here. So that's something we're going to be able to overcome. They've been working on this for a very long time. And Mr. George, I believe, from the Lieutenant Governor's office, as well as Ms. Adrienne Williams Octolin from the Office of Disaster Recovery, and Ms. Harrigan, Attorney Harrigan, from the Office of the Lieutenant Governor. They have been working on it, and really, it's really taking off. So we should see some good work and good signage, hopefully within the next 18 months that's coming up. Now, before we go right into it, I just want to highlight some information regarding Black History Month. We're going to be talking to Mr. Wilkinson about Black History Month, and he mentioned he was my social studies teacher. And we celebrate Black history. Just to give you some information, Black History Month grew out of the Negro History Week. It was a brainchild of noted historian Carter G. Woodson, and he is known as the father of Black history in 1915. Woodson started the recognition because many history books did not account for the contribution of Black Americans. This goes back to the early era of colonization, which brought Blacks as slaves to America. To make sure we as people know about the many contributions Black people made to this country and the world, he published a journal to document historical facts of Black people and began an annual week celebration during the month of February to coincide with two persons' birthday.
Frederick Douglass
and President
Lincoln.
Abraham Lincoln. That's how it came about. People, sometimes says, "Oh, why was it chosen? It's the shortest month of the year." But those were two.
Significance.
There was a significance. It's not because it was a short. It was because of those two gentlemen.
And Black Negro History Week, it was called, and it started 1926.
Right.
And then later on, the students at Kent University, they advocated for a change from Negro History Week. It was accepted in those days. They advocated for a change, and it was changed to 1969. President Ford signed it into law and to celebrate Black History Week, and it was first celebrated at Kent University.
Kent University. So that goes into the questions I want to ask you, Mr. Wilkinson. Why did it take so long for Black History Month to actually be realized nationally? I know there are other countries now that celebrate it as well. The United Kingdom celebrates it, and Canada, and other countries within the Caribbean region. But what do you think?
I think it's part of the acceptance of the contributions of Black folks in America. I mean, look how long it took for the abolishment of slavery. The 13th Amendment, 1965. Then you had the 14th Amendment, which is grant citizenship, 2 years later. And then later on, 1870, you had individuals were given the right to vote, 15th Amendment. So it took a while before the nation, and even when slavery was abolished, you still had slavery in some part of the country, the southern part of the country.
They didn't
because of the economics.
Right, and they didn't and actually they were still bringing in slaves in those areas, and that's the significance of June 19th, which
June 19th, that's correct.
Yes, that's that's a significance.
It takes a while for people to accept, they're so entrenched in their ideas that it took a while to accept the change, and this is what happened. And President Ford asked the nation to please celebrate the culture and the history and the contributions that Black people are making to the nation. And even after that, there were still some problems. So it took a while, As I said, from the 13th Amendment, 1865, all the way up to 1970, we still had some struggles.
Okay. And so we still have those struggles because, they always, people always say, change is very difficult. People, human beings, that's just by our nature. We are adverse to accepting change.
Well, Senator Carla, even in the voting, the law was passed that American citizens have a right to vote, and the 15th Amendment and all of that. Now, even that law, 1920, white American women were allowed to vote. Now, take that and ask the question, at what time, in what year did Black American women were given an opportunity to vote? 1965. You see the difference?
But Black men could vote.
black men could vote, but they had some problem in certain states because the Dred Scott decision. Dred Scott was a slave in one state and a free man in another state and a slave in another state. And the case went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court ruled that Dred Scott was a slave.
Wow. Even though he was free in one
That's
state?
correct.
That's interesting. That's very interesting, and it's just the whole progress that we have come through. You know, I always think about our the Black National Anthem, and it really speaks to the struggle of us as a people to overcome.
I find that in the Caribbean, the structure was made up differently, and in the Caribbean, in the United States was probably the last industrialized country in the world to abolish slavery. In the Caribbean, we were way ahead. We got in the Caribbean, West Indies, Navy Sinkits, Anguilla, 1833, 1834.
Yes.
Right there in the British Virgin Islands, 1848.
Right, and we were in the Virgin Islands 1848 as
That's
well, because
correct.
we just celebrated our 175th Emancipation Commemoration. I'm a member of that committee, and so we have been a little bit more advanced than our brothers and sisters on the U.S. mainland. And the level of oppression, even, you know, now tell me, I want to switch to something, because I remember when you went to school, did you go to school in the United States at one time and one period?
I'm glad you brought up that question, because it's a very sensitive topic for me. I came here as a youngster, and some of the ideas from America rolled down here, and I came in the 60s. I was a youngster. I'm a legal immigrant. I came here as a legal immigrant.
Right.
And I know my mom, she knew I always wanted to get into school and become a teacher, because when I was a youngster, I used to teach stones in my yard and all of that.
Which island is your Nevis?
Yes.
Okay,
So
the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis.
That's correct. So when I came down here, she had already had my uniform all sewed, and because she was an excellent seamstress, and she went to the authorities and asked the authorities if they can admit me into school, and the lady looked at me, top, bottom, up again, down, and she said, no, you can't be admitted into our public school. So a lot of us who came here had our challenges.
Yeah, I remember I used to work as a chief of staff for the late Honorable George Goodwin, and the struggle
That's right. I worked for him too.
Yes, I recently, last year, passed a resolution to rename the Nazareth cricket field in his honor, because it was a major struggle, and it was us, you know, doing it to ourselves.
Yeah, and despite those challenges, there were good people still came along and said, Wilkinson, let me give you a hand.
Yes.
You understand? There were individuals who said, no, go back to your islands and all of that. And there were good people said, here's a hand, grab my hand.
That's our community, you know. That's what I love about our community. We have some good people with good hearts.
Yes.
Yes.
There's a lot of good people in this community, and I will never turn my back on this community.
Neither
and you see me working with youngsters, I commit myself, as long as I'm alive, I will make my contribution to this community through the avenue of youngsters.
Now, let's talk about, we were talking a little bit about your education. Did you have a time to be educated in the United States in the 60s?
Well, I attended UConn. I attended UConn. I got
University of Connecticut?
Yes. I got a master's degree from UConn. A matter of fact, I graduated from CVI in 72. And I got a master's from UConn, and I got an EDS, which is an education specialist degree from the University of Connecticut. So I attended grad school for the master's program and the EDS program. I was in a PhD program, but I had some challenges with my mom, so I had to come back and take care of her.
Okay.
So, but
that's commendable.
Yeah, she comes first in my life.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. So during that time, did you experience any level of racism or prejudice?
Well, in
undertones
in UConn,
directly?
In UConn, there were some undertones. I remember I had a few classes, and I was the only black.
Wow.
The only black in those education classes. And I remember there's a lady who came to me and she said, and this was a white lady, she said to me, Wilkinson, they are planning a lunch at the professor's house around his pool, but I'm listening to them. They don't want you to be there.
Wow.
And the lady said to me, I'm going to take you out for lunch. I tell you, there are good people in the world still.
I know that's
I
right.
am going to take you out for lunch. And we went out for lunch.
Mm-hmm.
We went out for lunch. And she became my lifelong friend.
Wow.
Even up to now.
Wow.
Lifelong friend. She became the mayor of one of the cities in Connecticut.
Wow.
You understand? And her daughter came to the Virgin Islands. I took her to St. John, took her around and that kind of stuff. But they are good people. Despite of the cobwebs and all of that, there are roses still out there. You understand? And we became lifelong friends. And this is a white lady. And she's one of my best friends that I ever had.
True.
You understand? So there's subtle racism. You may not see it, but you can sense it. This is not how I lived in the Virgin Islands. This is not how I lived in my homeland. People don't. I would sit in the class when I was a 12th grader at Charlton Mali High School. I attended All Saints, and when I went to Charlton Mali and graduated from Charlton Mali High School, and when I sat in my class, there were some of my classmates pull away, didn't want to sit next to me
because you were from
Down Island,
right?
But it's more accepted now,
right?
We have come a long way
because we have integrated into the community, and we've shown and demonstrated that, hey, we are here, and I'm saying we because even though I was born, raised, and educated here in the Virgin Islands, my parents too were immigrants. And the one thing my mother and my grandmother, my mother, God rest her soul in peace, and my mother, they really influenced me at home. And there came a period in my life, in my professional career, where I was headhunted by their nation, people, government officials, and I was like, I think I need to go and take advantage of this opportunity. They sat me down in the kitchen. Women like to be doing things in the kitchen. That's a black thing. And they had a long talk with me. They said, Carla, that nation did not invest in you. Right. You stay right here.
All right.
And you help your, I would never forget that. You help you. And the thing is, I didn't have as good prospects at the time. I mean, they were going to pay room, board. I was going to be in a high level executive position. And they said, you stay right here. They did not invest in you.
And they made the right decision. I'm so proud of the work that you're doing.
Yeah, yes, thank you.
Let me give you
Go ahead.
Let me give you an example. Nazareth, the school Nazareth. That was constructed because of a case. There were a lot of people from Down Islands coming to the Virgin Islands, and people were saying, get them back home, get them back to the islands. But it was Judge Christian in 1970. There was a case against Governor Evans. I forget the name of Mosier versus Evans.
Yes, I remember. It's in a resolution for Senator Goodwin.
Right.
Yes, because he was part of that, and that's how it got built.
And he ruled that once you're here legally, here legally and of age, we have to educate these individuals. And look how things have turned around. And I didn't give up on my career. As I said, I was not admitted to public school at first. When I sat in the chair at Udoraken High School as the principal of the school, I hit my hand and said, yes, because it turned around in 360-degree circle. I couldn't get into public school, but now I'm here as a principal of a public school, and I'm going to do my best.
And now we want to talk about what you're still doing for young people, because I said you're a champion of young people, and you're still doing a lot of work for young people. This is all part, what we're discussing is all part of Black history, because that was history making what happened to get our people who are here legally, their children, into public school. So what are you doing now as a champion for our young people?
Well, presently I work with a number of youngsters. If you come on Sundays at Lockout School, I have about 40 youngsters who are there playing chess. I am training 22 of them. We are going to Baltimore from April 4th to April 9th
Wow.
to participate in what is called K-12 National. These are the best students from across the nation coming to Baltimore to participate in a chess tournament. Kindergarten to 12th grade. And don't take your eyes off those kindergarten students because some of them are top-notch players. Kindergarten to 12th grade. I have 22 students, 22 awesome students who are going with me to Baltimore in April. Okay, and I started this program since 2002. I don't know if you remember Dr. Linda Critty.
Of course, I remember. She was the Commissioner of Education
Right,
at one point. I remember.
Right.
I wonder if my high school diploma has her signature on it. Yes.
Yeah, she contacted me one day and said,
Yes.
Wilkinson, I read a magazine that talk about how chess helps students, especially in math and science. Is that true? I said, Doctor, you're
Yes.
correct.
That
You're
is
correct.
true.
It improved averages, and some nations you can't graduate unless you get a course in chess. And I said, let's get together, and we wrote a grant. And LEPC was the one that funded the grant back in 2002.
Great, and you've
I'm
been
still-
doing,
I'm
and
still with them.
very passionate about that. We're almost out of time because this show is only a half an hour. But I wanted to get from you something that is philosophical and where you could add and say, what can we tell your message, or you could tell our young people and their families, because you have grandparents, mothers, aunts, uncles listening, and parents listening, about knowing their history and about civic duty. What can you tell them about that?
Well, civic duty, in my case, for example, I thought I wasn't belong, but I said, no, I'm here to contribute to this community. I'm going to do everything possible to contribute. And I would suggest to individuals, and my lifestyle, I work with youngsters. I always believe if I hang around youngsters, I'm going to live an extra 20 years. You understand? Youngsters inspire me. I don't get tired. I devote my life to youngsters. So individuals, you can make a contribution to our community in if you're a chemist, if you're a carpenter, you can take the time out and go to the schools and work with youngsters. They'll be happy to accommodate you.
Absolutely. I want to also just say something I have for young people. Every year, my office sponsors a Black and Virgin Islands History Month art competition. It's geared to the St. Thomas and St. John middle school students. So this is my 4th annual. And so anyone who is in middle school, I will encourage you to definitely check out my webpage at senatorcarlajoseph.com, and you will see all the rules and regulation. We do give out an award. Your submittal, which should be a drawing of some Black person who has inspired you, should be submitted by March 31st, 2024, and it also should be accompanied with an essay telling us how this person in history has inspired you. Because I've had a number of young people who have entered over the years, and it's usually a big occasion. I put up their renderings in my office. So please check us out, and you could also call my office for further information, which is 340-693-3515. We are almost to the end of our show. I think we are to the end of our show. And I want to really thank you, Mr. Wilkinson, for being here with me. I'm asking the community and our listening and viewing audience, please follow me on Facebook at Senator Carla Joseph. You could also check out my website, as I mentioned, senatorcarlajoseph.com, and you can call my office at 340-693-3515. I'm also on Facebook and on Twitter. This month, on February 27th, I'm sharing the Committee on Government Operations, Veteran Affairs, and Consumer Protection meeting in St. Thomas. Follow us on Legit TV. And also tune into our next broadcast of On Point, which will be on February 20th. So, Mr. Wilkinson, any final thoughts before we sign off for the evening?
Final thought, we are not a perfect community, but we have a lot of good people living in this community, and you have a civic responsibility to help young people. That's my final thought.
As mentioned, thank you so much. As mentioned, our next program will be on February 20th, when we will have a discussion on our government employees retirement system. So until then, stay on point, everyone. God bless, and stay dry. It has a lot of weather out there tonight, but we are fearless. Have a good evening, and God bless. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you so much. It was nice sitting with you.
Nice being here with you too, Mr. Wilkinson.
Start reading a lot now.
Bye.
I live all the way in Nazareth, so I hope I can get home safe on this road.